Did it get cold up there too, Dan?
It hasn't been as warm as normally is for this time of year. No.
It got real chilly down here.
Tell me when you're ready.
We on, bro. How you doing?
Good. Excited to be bringing this new product to the public.
I'm glad that we finally got some products from you to have. I'm just glad you're not taking all this stuff to the grave with you, Dan. Think about all the people that went to the grave with all that stuff up here.
Yeah.
You ever think about that stuff?
You know what? I never have, but now I will, because now that you put it in my head.
I think about it all the time. Like the guys I know, I'm like, yo, why don't you write a book, put out documents, training courses? I'm like, so much stuff that we just don't know. I think, Dan, you know so much. You don't think about it. You just do it.
Right.
And,
I agree with you.
you just do it. Even when I first met you, I'm like, man, you do a lot of stuff. And doing of the thing has nothing to do with showing others how to do the thing. So it's a whole nother business. So thanks for that. Roundup, come on in, homies. Good to see you guys. It is good to be seen and not viewed, right? So I am Chris Haskins. I'm your co-pilot today on this beautiful day. I'm so thankful to be alive and be healthy. I'm thankful. I meet people just dying and getting sick all around me. I'm thankful. Today we're going to be talking about how to analyze real estate deals. How do you do it? How do you know whether you got a good deal? Even if you do have a deal, what are the expenses? What are you looking for? Stuff that's just going to pop up. And
Excuse me, Chris.
go ahead. Yeah. My mission and ministry is to raise your financial literacy through real estate investing and entrepreneurship. So I was talking to Dan and he had this new product that he put together. So I'm like, you know what? Let's see if this would help not only my roundup homies, but help me too. So Dan Barrero has been doing this since 1989, and the stuff that goes through his brain is unbelievable. And I will actually be with Dan. We're putting together a lunch and learn for you guys the second week of June in the northern Newark area. We haven't decided where, but we are working on that right now. So we'll be able to hang out with you the second week of June. Thanks for doing that with me, Dan.
No, no problem. It's always a pleasure, man. It's always a delight being with you, bro.
Yeah. So let's get rocking and rolling here, brother Dan. Give us a background for the few people on my channel that don't know who you are. Give us your background real quick. I know you've been doing this forever.
Sure. My name is Dan Barrera. I've been around. I've actually been a real estate investor since 1989. I've been self-employed since 1985. Um, and then by giving you those years, I'm actually dating myself, right?
It's
Um,
wisdom, bro.
yeah. Having said that, I've actually, in partnership with my brother, I've actually, we've flipped thousands and thousands of real estate deals, whether they be land, condos, townhomes, single family homes, multifamily properties, commercial, mixed use, and but the entire time, what we do is we take those fix and flip money, and we take those profits, of course, after we pay Uncle Sam his pound of flesh, and we put that money into long-term holds, such as properties that we have in downtown Brooklyn area, Fort Greene Park Slope area, and then we also buy a lot of condos for long-term holds in Central Florida as well for
Yeah,
cash
that's
flow.
cool. So the magic, Dan, I want my roundup homies to understand is you don't necessarily do a lot of remembering. That's why you have all these docs to put together in these systems so it can remind you and give you an outline of how to move forward.
Precisely, right? So you have to have process and procedures in place, and it took me a real long time to figure that out, longer than I should have. But the reality is, because I had it all in my head, so it got to the point like for analyzing my deals, it was very simple for me, right? I take a paper and pen, take a piece of scrap paper and a pen, and just write it out. But then I realized, because there's so many people that, Chris, as you know, we do our mentorship classes on Wednesday nights,
That's right.
and people kept asking me the same questions, or people would be calling
Same
me
question.
up to set up a one-on-one consultation when they had a deal in hand to make sure that they had the right numbers, or that they understood that if they were analyzing the property correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And 99% of the time they weren't. And 99% of the time that people brought me a deal to analyze for them, I realized Well, they thought it was a great deal
Mm-hmm.
until they spoke to me and we broke down the numbers, right?
That
So
happens more than not.
yeah, and I was kind of the barrier of bad news. Um, so I came out with this deal analyzer, but when I was coming out with the deal analyzer, I realized that a lot of people don't understand where to find the numbers for certain expenditures.
Mhm.
I also realized that a lot of people truly didn't understand a lot of the terminology or the acronyms. So, something I thought that was going to take me maybe 20 minutes to a half an hour ended up taking me literally like 2.5 days because I was
Wow.
trying to simplify it. Although it's several pages long, I was trying to simplify it so that after they do a couple of deals using this deal analyzer, they'll be able to just immediately go to the last page because they'll have an understanding of the acronyms. They'll have an understanding of the terminology. They'll have an understanding of how to figure out the equations like cash on cash returns,
Mhm.
uh, the cap rates, because that's all in the glossary as well. And then
Mm.
there's really no expenditure that I did not take account for. So, in some areas, you actually have here in the city of New York, garbage removal is included with our real estate taxes. That
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean it's like that everywhere in the country,
That's right.
right? Sometimes you may have a property that has two HOAs instead of one HOA if it's in a gated community, for instance,
Mhm.
right? There's other charges that may not apply to everyone, but every single charge is there. So in the event that that charge doesn't apply to you, you just leave that
Oh, a
field
minute. Yeah.
blank. But if you need to know, if there's questions about closing costs, a lot of people don't analyze the closing costs or don't figure out what their real closing costs are. Not only with from the title company, but exactly what the mortgage company is charging you, right? So, those costs are individually analyzed as well, and we provide where you could get those numbers to input into the analyzer. So that gives you a real indication whether the deal's viable or not.
Yeah, that's cool, Dan. We're going to get into that roundup, but make sure if you're just joining us, I'm Chris Haskins. I'm hanging out with Daniel Barrero today. We're talking about his real estate analyzer. We're going to kind of go pull back so you can see what it looks like. I wish I had some of this stuff. I never forget. I remember like it was yesterday, looking at properties like, what do I offer? What are the expenses? What's going to come up? How much is, I mean, I had no clue. It's like you don't know what you don't know, right? But when I look at your analyzer, Dan, and it has all, it's almost like asking me questions. Did you do this? Did you do blah, 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 blah. Now I can just fill in the blank.
Correct.
Thank you for doing that, man. It's so cool. So roundup, we're gonna get into that in a minute. So I have to make sure I remind you this Memorial Day weekend, we're gonna see Dan's beautiful face again here for Real Estate Investing Foundations. I put together a step-by-step training course just to give you a baseline on how to get started. If you're anything like me, I did not have Ma and Pa talking about real estate at the kitchen table when I was growing up. Neither did I have any family members. So thanks to working with Dan and Dave and Mike, we have this 15 proven steps. How do you get started in real estate? Do you want to do land? Do you want to do multifamily, single family, lease options, subject to, fix and flip, short sales, wholesaling, all that stuff? This foundation real estate course is going to kind of give you an outline of where do I get started? What should I do? What is even out there for me to get started? Dan, before we get into your stuff, did you know exactly what strategy you wanted to do when you got started?
I did.
How did you know that? How did you know this stuff?
Because literally by watching other people doing it, nobody that was related to me, but just watching other people doing it.
Hmm.
When I walked in the neighborhood, I actually, so when I graduated from college, I went back to my old neighborhood to start my career, and I started buying in where I felt most comfortable in the neighborhood I grew up in. And I remember watching all the store owners, the shopkeepers. Eventually, they would rent their place, and then they would eventually buy the building, and then eventually they'd buy the building across the street or the one down the corner. So and I remember watching those guys, and I remember saying, I want to do that. I want to be like them.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, not everybody has the people in Brooklyn that, I mean, you were right all up on everybody. Not everybody's going to have that opportunity to be able to
Right.
observe and recognize that. So good for you. So your analyzer thing, how long did it take you to put this together, Dan? I know I'm going to share the
It
screen in a
literally
minute.
took me like I said, something I thought was going to take me a half an hour to an hour. It took me 3 days, man. You know, Uh, and that was because I would do it, and then I'd give it to my assistant to type it up and put it in the Excel format, and then I'd look at it again, and I'm like, yeah, let's change this, let's change that. And then I'd look at it again, I'd say, oh, but wait a minute, I know that,
One
but
more
that
thing.
doesn't necessarily mean everyone else understands this. So the
Hmm.
more I changed it, the more I kept realizing I was doing it as if it were for me. But the reality is, I had to do it for everyone else that is just beginning in this business. People that don't understand the terminologies and the acronyms, or how to figure out the equations. So, as I kept doing it, I had to keep doing it in a way that would simplify it.
That's right.
Including there's even instruction sheet, step by step on how to analyze a deal and which sheets you should do first.
That's cool. And so you're doing real estate in 3 states. I just want to make sure everybody understands. You have to have some type of procedure to remind you of this stuff. Even for me, like here's my little deal book. I don't do as many deals as you, but I carry this stuff around with me, so I can't. I don't try to. I don't want to remember anything. Nothing. I got purchase and sales agreements in here, all the docs closing stuff. One lady has HOA stuff we got to deal with. Death certificates, all that stuff is right here in one place. Now I'm gonna add some of that stuff from your analyzer because you got to know what HOA is. What is HOA insurance? Matter of fact, where we live, we have flood insurance we have to deal with. Dan, do you have that up there too?
In some areas, you do, yes.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And that's one of the expenses that's on the analyzer. But again, if you don't have that expense for that particular property, then you don't fill in that blank. You don't
Gotcha.
fill in that field.
Gotcha. All right, so let's get into this, Dan. You can kind of go over this a little bit and round up. Dan has been so gracious enough to not only share this with us, but if you want to get a copy of it, you can download it in the video description below. Dan has given me the link to do that. Dan, thank you so much. So
Oh,
right in
thank
the
you.
video description, you can, if you want to download it while Dan goes over this, you can right now. It's gonna cost you less than a tank of gas. Less than a tank of gas.
That's the
Nowadays.
truth, especially now.
It's cost you less. You gotta put some money into your business if you want to be successful in this thing. Less than a tank of gas. So Dan, let's do this, man. Tell me, all right, where you want me to start?
You can start right from the beginning, man.
Okay.
So as I said, it's giving you an explanation. First, she's just basically giving you an explanation of what to expect, right?
Okay.
and and why I decided to put this together. Again, and I can't reiterate this enough. People are paying me to do consultations one-on-one to analyze a deal,
Hmm.
and I realized literally 9 out of every 10 deals that they paid me to analyze with them, they came to me so excited thinking it was a great deal, and then they were leaving so disappointed.
Let's stay there for a minute, Dan, because I want people to understand. For me, I say no way more than I say yes when it comes to deals, and I want them to hear from you. Tell us a little bit about you on that.
So do I. You and I, we've had this discussion countless times. My first react when I look at a deal, I look at a deal for every reason why I shouldn't take it.
I don't need it. I don't need another deal. I don't need it.
I don't need another job. So if it's
Another
a
job.
job,
Dan.
I don't want it. Real estate's supposed to be as passive income. Yes, it takes work. There's no doubt that. Listen, the reality is, Chris, you and I both work a whole lot more than 40 hours a week.
Oh
Um,
shit, yeah.
but we work it because we love what we do, not because we have to do it. Correct?
What is the 40-hour work week anything? I don't even
Wouldn't
know
even know.
what.
I'm not. Again, I've been self-employed since 1985, so I couldn't tell you. Just couldn't tell you, right?
No
Even if I
disrespect.
remembered that far back, I couldn't tell you. You know?
I would never forget wishing I could work 40 hours a week, Dan. I mean, that
Right.
would be a slow week.
Right, exactly.
Slow
So
week.
the point is that people come to me, they pay me to consult them for these deals, and they're walking away really, upset or disappointed. And the reality is, they didn't have to pay me to analyze the deal.
Mhm.
If they had taken out the time to understand the terminologies and where to find these expenses, and when to input those expenses into the analyzer. So with this
Indeed.
analyzer, all that's covered for you. Not only is there a glossary giving you the definitions and
Mhm.
the acronym and of the acronyms and of the normal terminology,
Mhm.
but we even give you the equations, to figure out cash on cash or cap rates, right?
That's deep.
And then we account for every single possible expense on the closing side, on the financing side, on your
Finance.
acquisition side.
Finance.
All
Wow.
these expenses have to go into the analyzer for then you to determine if the deal is actually viable or not. Is it a deal? Is it a fix and flip? Is it a wholesale deal? Is it an Airbnb? Is it a long-term rental? How do
Wow.
you make that determination if you don't know what your numbers are? This will help you get
You
to your
can't.
numbers.
And I think I'm like you. When I look at it, I'm just like, boom, but as opposed to putting it down. And well, a lot of times I do it on my board now, but yeah, I think every time you write it down is better.
Right.
It's better because it's like, okay, did I miss something? Let's see. Did I miss? I mean, I wrote it down.
I tell people you get the analyzer, go to Zillow, take down all the information from that one deal, possible deal, do it 3 or 4 deals. By the time you do 3 or 4 of them, you're going to be able to fast track that analyzing any property within just 10 minutes, 5 to 10
Mhm.
minutes, because you would have already learned the process, right? Using this
Yeah,
analyzer sheets.
that is cool. Thank you, Dan. So look, get your questions in the chat. Obviously, members' questions answered first. Y'all know I got to show some love to my homies that sacrificed their dollars for us. If you're not a member yet, just a little something extra for busy professionals and entrepreneurs. There's a join button right there to help us continually bring people on like Dan. It's gonna cost you nothing but a large Starbucks coffee a month, pretty much. So Dan, let me reintroduce you one more time. Dan Barrero, my homie from Brooklyn, New York. I will be with him the second week of June. We got our hotel tickets there. We got our train tickets yesterday, Dan.
Awesome.
So I'm there, brother. I'm there. So I'll be hanging out with Dan. And if you want to do lunch and learn with us, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you know when we come back on, we're going to promote that second week of June in the New York or North New Jersey area. Let's do this. Okay, Dan, here we go. We got our thing here. Go ahead.
So again, the first page is just an introduction and an explanation of why I decided to put this together, and two, again, just an explanation of what's coming.
Cool.
Again, gives you an outline of what's there, and again, this is something that took a lot of effort in doing and trying to make it as simplistic as possible. Mm-hmm. So when you first get these sheets, you may think it may be a little overwhelming if you've never done this before. Maybe. But if you follow the instructions on the second page, and I just want to point something out to you. Look at number 5, income statement and profit loss. Why did I put that in? Because that accounts for every single possible expenditure that you're going to have on that property, especially if you intend to keep that for long term, right? For cash flow long term. Not only that, this is the sheet that your accountant is going to be basing your tax returns on. Mm. So this is why I put in the income statement and profit and loss statement sheet, right? Wow. Because once you do that sheet, when you get to the final sheet, you'll be able to analyze the deal with all the correct numbers.
That's going to cut back time on bookkeeping.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Of course, this is the introduction, and this is the outline, right? So exactly step by step. These are clear instructions, step-by-step instructions on how to use the analyzer. And then, of course,
so you're
going to have your income and profit loss statement. And again, it counts for every single possible cost, including your bank fees. So, that's something that's overlooked quite often, right? If you have a commercial account, you're most likely, if you don't have a lot of money in the bank, you're going to be getting charged a monthly fee for that bank account, that checking account. That could be as high as $25 a month, right? That's literally $300 more per year. Did you account for that? Because that makes a difference, right?
That's interesting.
Your marketing costs. When you're going to rent an apartment, are you renting it yourself? If you are, there's marketing costs. If you're in an area where the landlord actually has to pay the real estate fee, that's a marketing cost. You want to know what your total costs are. Snow removal, permit costs. You got to pull a permit to get a new water heater.
So this is your overall income and expenses here.
Right. So you want to know if that property is viable. Do you have car expenses? Every time you travel to that property, do you have to pay a toll? How much does it cost you to get there?
Hmm.
right? Your telephone and internet service, your cleaning supplies. And cleaning supplies is something that's overlooked dramatically. Dramatically. I have buildings where I'm spending $1,100-$1,200 a year on cleaning supplies versus some that I'm only spending $300 a year, and then I have other properties that I'm spending $2,500 a year on.
What do you mean cleaning supplies, Dan?
Mops, buckets, literally, detergent.
What are we cleaning? Give me a picture of that.
You have paper towel. You have light bulbs that have to be changed. So you're cleaning the windows above the entrance, the front door,
This is common areas.
common areas, right? You're wiping down the moldings. If
I
there's a
didn't think
rug in
about
the area,
that.
you have to pay for vacuum cleaner bags. So
Wow.
it's clean. Those are cleaning supplies that most people don't take into account.
Hmm. I'm thinking
Publications,
about.
guys. If
I'm thinking
you
about my
are
Airbnb. Go ahead, Dan. Go.
if you're paying Chris Haskins whatever that fee is to become a member, so you could get privileged uh, spot seating, for instance, where you could ask your questions first before everyone else.
Mhm.
That's an expense, and that's a publication expense, and that's a real expense because at the end of the day, you're paying for an education, right?
Mhm.
That publication's providing you an education. That's an
Write it
expense
off.
to the company.
Write off too. Write it off.
Precisely. Utilities, what's your electric, what's your oil, what's your gas, what's your water and sewer charges.
That's funny you bring this up about the cleaning, Dan. You really rung a bell with me regarding. Check this out. We got these Airbnbs, right? And not all the time. Sometimes people stay for 1, 2, 3 months. So now I'm having to supply cleaning stuff for the property as opposed to just saying, well, 1 or 2 nights where the cleaning company would come clean it up and they have everything. So now the units are actually having to have cleaning supplies in them so people can actually clean them as they stay in there. I'm like, darn, I gotta start buying this stuff and putting it in the
Exactly.
closet.
That's an expense that most people don't take into account.
I didn't think about that.
You thought about it now.
Yeah, I did. I didn't even think about it. The lady been in there for 3 weeks. I gotta go get. I don't have a vacuum cleaner. I gotta go buy a vacuum cleaner for the lady. All right, go ahead, Dan. Sorry about that.
And of course, you have your total expenses minus your gross collected rent, right?
Yep, gotcha.
So and guys, by the way, that's something that you would give to your accountant as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, financing costs, because financing closing cost estimator. I don't even think then when I do consultations and even when I do talk to new investors, they don't even they have not calculated anything for financing costs or closing costs.
They never do.
It's not even in their scope of work.
In their realm, right?
Yeah.
But that can make a difference. That could make a huge difference. That's why, like, if you go with an FHA mortgage, yeah, you only have to put 3.5% down, but your closing costs average about 15 to 20% more than if you went with a conventional mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know that, right? Most people don't even know where to find that information out. So, if you go back to the screen, you'll see that on the right side, it clearly tells you. So under the explanation, I would give you where you could get this information from for these particular expenditures. Underwriter fee. You want to know what that is? Ask the bank that's giving you the mortgage. That should be actually in the truth in lending statement.
Underwrite.
That they're supposed to supply you with. What your settlement fee is, that you would get from your title company. You ask your title company, what is these fees? Title company's going to charge you FedEx charges.
Yeah, it used to be $10, $15. It's like $30, $40 now.
I've seen some as high as $75.
$75, yeah.
I'm
sorry.
$75. And sometimes if there's a mortgage involved that the seller has to pay off, that could go up to as high as $225 between all three FedExes.
75, yeah, it's 75 a pop. You're right.
All these small numbers add up to big numbers.
They add up. And Dan, I think that's what separates you from most investors, multimillionaires. Even when I talk to Chris Birch about you, he's like, man, Dan called me. He owed me $80. He remembered it. He had it written down. He knows exactly what I owe him. I think this is the little things that set you aside, that set you apart, brother.
These are the things that set anyone aside. The details matter. The details is what makes a difference.
Flood cert
Most
fee.
people lose on a deal because they didn't take account about the details.
This is
You
the
know,
good stuff.
title search. Where do you get that? There's a fee for that.
Yeah.
How do you find that out? You call the title company. There's an explanation as to where you get these fees, the cost of these fees.
On the right
On the
side,
right-hand side.
over here.
Yep.
This looks like those just nebulous fees that we get being. I remember being a first-time homeowner. It was just like boom, 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 and it had a dollar amount on there, and you just unknowingly you just go in there and pay it. This is kind of breaking it down to where I know exactly what it is before I go to close it.
Not only that, you're going to know what your numbers are, right? You're going to know before you put an escrow deposit on that property, before you spend any money getting an inspection, you know what your numbers are using this analyzer.
I appreciate that, Dan. So round up, if you want to keep following along, right in the video description, you can download Dan's real estate analyzer right below, showing you all this stuff so you know exactly how much you're going to be spending, what are your costs, and versus your income, profit and loss. I didn't even know what that was until I got my first audit. Gotta have P&L.
Gotta have it.
All right, Dan, what we got here? When flipping, property analyzation when you're flipping.
So this is, this is just, before you could get to this, you have to know what all your real expenses are, right? Your on your profit and loss statement.
Okay.
Then you're going to take those numbers and input them in here.
Gotcha.
Okay. So what's your purchase price? That you're going to know. What are your comps? And make sure you use legitimate comps, right? What's your estimated repairs? Get it, and again, you can, on the right-hand side, there's an explanation as to where you can get this information from. If you're a beginner, I would tell you to get at least 3 estimates. Or if you don't have time, Google it. If you go to Google and you put in estimated renovation cost per square foot in this zip code, or the name of that township or city, it will give you, Google gives you, there's plenty of websites there that could give you a pretty good estimate at what it's going to cost you per square foot to renovate that property. You want to know what your insurance is, right? So if you're flipping that property and you think you're going to be done in 3 months, make it 6 months in your mind. Figure everything out at worst case scenario. But there's a cost to carrying that property and insurance. Make sure you know what that insurance cost is.
Yeah, with insurance was a big one for me because we used to get builder's risk. It's like $700. You got to pay 6 months all up front. Now we have a company that charges us by the month, but gotta have it. Different type of insurance for landlord as opposed to.
It's a total different. You got to have builder's insurance and you have to have general liability insurance.
There you go. You bet.
So there's 2 different insurances. You want to know what those insurances are. If you're not doing any renovations, then you don't have to account for the second insurance.
Yeah.
So after you get all your numbers in there, you put down your potential profit, what your potential sale is. But remember, then there's a closing cost for that potential sale. So you have to figure in those closing costs as well.
Oh, right.
Your total cost. So what's your total selling cost?
That's the total what we're going to sell it? No, that's our cost to sell on the realtor side.
Right, because you got to pay your realtor his commission. You got to pay your attorney to close it again. There's title company costs again, and there's recording costs. Well, there's several costs. You're going to have to pay off you're going to have to record, assuming you had a hard money lender that lent you money, they have the first position and it's recorded. That now there's got to be a satisfaction that's recorded.
Pay them off, yeah.
Right? So you want to know what those costs are. Then you deduct that from your total sale amount, and that'll give you what your return is.
Just for my roundup homies that don't have a clear understanding on, because I know realtor fee, it is just so important. I mean, good God. I have spent, I don't even know, hundreds of thousands of dollars on realtor fees over my years. You probably spent millions. Dan, people don't know how much it is. They think they're going to pay 3% to sell the property. So just make sure we just frame that up so they know exactly what they're getting into.
So on average, it depends on the deal you cut with your realtors. So somebody like Chris Haskins and myself, we have more bargaining power because of the volume that we do.
Yes, true.
Right. So normally people like Chris and I, we pay a lesser commission because realtors want to work with us. They want our business, right? Because they're going to be able to go out and buy for us, and they're going to be able to sell for us when we're ready to sell, right? Assuming it's a flip. So those realtors, at least the smart ones, understand the value of consistent business, although they may be getting it less per deal.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's your first and second time deal, they're probably not going to give you the discounted percentage that they would give it to us, for instance, because you haven't proven yourself. So the average is anywhere between 3 and 6%,
Well,
depending on the area you're in and how
so
competitive it is with other realtors.
okay, I never seen 3. Let me shit. I ain't never seen. That's 1.5 and 1.5. Then, right?
Well, you got, so if they're the selling and listing agent, then 3% is really good, right? If they do both,
Yeah, I guess you're right. That's true.
right?
How often does that happen, though?
Often, I mean, so there's times I'll tell a realtor, I don't need you because I can sell my own property. But if you'd like to represent it, it'll be 3%, 1% to the listing agent, 2%, actually 3.5, and 2.5% to the selling agent. So now that listing agent has an incentive to go out there and sell that property themselves.
Gotcha.
Now they're getting 3.5%.
I see what you're saying.
Right now, if they just took the list, let's say they showed someone else's property and there was a 5% commission, they got that when they split that commission with the listing agent, they're only walking away with 2.5. I'm
So I
giving them
want,
the opportunity to walk away with 3.5 because they're going to
yeah,
list it and sell it.
I want people to understand, round up homies, when you sell on these flips, you have to think about the seller, your not only your realtor, but the buyer's realtor too. We have to pay that. If we're selling, we have to pay. Even if you don't have any realtor fees, okay, cool, I'll list it for free. You still got to pay the realtor that brings the buyer. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're crunching these numbers, and don't make numbers so tight. You need a
No,
huge gap because I'm like, Dan, I'm the first to admit I'm just not that good. I can't bring jobs, and I've been doing this for long. I can't bring them in on a dime.
it's
I
very
don't know
few
about you.
times that I've actually brought jobs in at below budget or on the dime.
And you've been doing this since '89. I want people to understand. People round up. People get into flips and they think 4 months. They calculate 4 months of interest. They calculate 4 months of this. I'm like, man, you better be doing 6, 7. All my deals, I do a year. When I go into a deal, I say, look, this is gonna take me a year. But if we settle in 2 months, cool. Or we settle in 3 months, great. But I still mentally, because I've been, well, Dan, I've been there where houses have sat on the market. We haven't been doing that lately, but have you been? I'm going to ask you, have you been through those markets where houses sit?
Well, see, I look at it this way, man. I remember after 2008, we were buying a lot of foreclosures, right? We normally didn't sit on a house for more than 60 to 90 days because it all comes down to how you price the property
Gotcha.
and leave enough meat on the bone, right? So, and then as a result of that, it all comes down to how you buy the property. Because if you don't buy it right, you ain't
You're
never
done.
going to make a profit. You
You're
make your
done.
money the day you buy it, not the day you sell it,
Yeah, you're done. So
right?
the
So
max for your whole career since '89 is 90 days. You've never held onto a house more than 90 days?
I've gone as much as 120 days, and I was mad as sin about it.
How in the world? So 120 days is 4 months.
Yeah, I've gone 120 days, and most of the time that's because the person buying is usually an FHA mortgage or
Mhm.
VA mortgage.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, you can't do. You know nothing about that.
No,
Look at this, Dan. Michelle Carey. Hey, Michelle. I was shocked when I saw the breakdown of the commission on the house that I'm closing on Monday came to 21. There you go.
know what your numbers are.
6, 12, 18. So that's a $325,000 house. That's just a regular commission. That's just standard.
And listen, there's nothing wrong with realtors getting that because remember
Mm-mm.
they also work relatively hard as well
Yes,
because and they got to split that commission, so they got to split it. The
the
listing
broker.
agent has to split it with the selling agent,
Yeah.
and then they got to go back and split it with their broker.
If they
And then
got a
they got to
broker.
pay, errors and omissions insurance, and then they got to pay franchise fees, and then they got to pay for their licensing that they have to
That's
maintain
true.
every year, and
That's
their
true.
continuous ed, and then they got car expenses. So it sounds like a lot of money, but when it all gets broken down, it's really not a lot of money.
Yeah, they got a lot to
I
do.
mean, it's a lot of money to the person paying, without a doubt, right? But it's not a lot of money to the realtor after they break down all their expenditures, and then they got
Yeah.
to pay taxes on top of that, right?
Michelle, that's a good point. When you see those realtor fees, I know every time I get them on the HUD, I have to double and triple check. I'm like, 20 grand, is this right? I mean, is this okay? So round up, let me remind you, we were hanging out with my boy Dan Barrero, going over his real estate analyzer. We're gonna get back to that in a second, but make sure you mark your calendar for Memorial Day weekend, where we're gonna be releasing 15 proven ways to get started. If you have no idea, a lot of people that I meet have no clue which strategy is best for them. Not to say that they don't know what to do. They just need to know, figure out which one should they do. Lease option, land, short sales, BRRRRs, house hacking, seller finance, sub two, creative finance, fix and flip, all this stuff. I had no idea which one I wanted to do. So that's why we created Real Estate Investing Foundations, to give you the foundation of which strategy you should choose. And you can go figure out which one works for you. You have credit, no credit, you have relationships, partnerships, all that stuff. So REI Foundations is coming Memorial Day weekend. And if you haven't signed up for our email, that is in the video description below as well. Dan, let's keep going on this thing, brother.
You got to go down now.
Okay, one more.
And then this is the
Oh,
property
my Lord.
expenses. This sheet is truly for long-term holds, right?
Okay.
Because you have every possible expenditure you could have. Think about, right? Porter service. Think about
What's
that.
a porter service, Dan? I don't even know what that is.
If you're paying somebody, in my case, I pay people to go out and take all. Tenants bring their garbage down to the garbage area, where they then separate everything and recycle it. But now you have to pay someone actually to keep that garbage area clean. 1, 2, then you have to also pay them to bring it out to the curb every time, twice a week, when the garbage night is, when sanitation is going to be picking up.
Really?
Just to get to the curb by itself, right?
I didn't know that. I had no idea.
You have a vacancy rate. What's your vacancy rate in the area? If you don't know what that is, you need to go on to Google and type that in, vacancy rate area in such and such zip code, and it'll give you your average tenancy stay. So if you have a one-family house and your vacancy is 12 months, meaning the average stay is 12 months, you're going to lose a month and a half of rent per year. Because it takes time now to go in and clean and paint and to get that home re-rented again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these are all expenditures that you should be considering before you actually decide on whether the deal is viable or not.
You got to know this stuff, man.
What's your property management cost? That goes between 7 and 10%, depending on the area, depending on the manager. Incidentals. What are those incidentals? So cleaning supplies, cost of material for minor repairs, such as light bulbs, garbage bags. Depreciation. You would get that number from your accountant.
Gotcha.
What's your mortgage amount going to be? There's mortgage calculators that you could go to right online. All you got to do is type in mortgage calculator and use it for free.
Yep, that's what I do.
So guys, like I said, to the right column of all my sheets, it tells you exactly where you could get this information.
I love it. I had to worry about somebody taking the trash out. Property income, Dan, how does this go?
You can't analyze a deal without knowing what the property income is. So let's go to the top, if you don't mind, Chris.
Gotcha.
So if you see, right, so apartment 1, amounts per month. When's the lease? Is there a lease? What's the end date and what's the annual income? So let's say you're buying a property that's renting at below market price.
Mm-hmm.
You better know if there's a lease and when the end date is. If it's a month to month, great, because now you could immediately raise the rents, right? Mm-hmm. According to whatever the laws are in that particular township. Some townships, some counties say you got to give a 90-day notice. Some say that you only have to give a 30-day notice. So I always give 90-day notice, whether it's a 30-day notice by law or not, because I want to give people a chance to go look and find other places to go live.
90 days. So I don't want to minimize that. Let's stay there, Dan. 90 days. Because I was a 30-day guy too back in the day. I'm like, 30 days. Man, 30 days goes by so quick now. 90 days, y'all. Just do 90 days. That way you got people, they got plenty of time to look.
not only that, in the event they go to the judge and said, Judge, I didn't have time to go look, or Judge, I didn't have time to find something.
Mhm.
You had 90 days, you had 3 months. If you can't find it in 3 months, what's
Yeah,
another 3 months going to do for you?
that's true.
Nothing,
That's a good
right?
point, Dan. 90 days.
So,
You should be able to get whatever you need to get done in 90 days.
right. So you get, you're getting you're not looking as you're being unreasonable in front of the judge if you have to take that person to court because they didn't vacate, right?
There you
You
go.
gave them a 90-day notice. You didn't give them a 30-day notice or 60-day notice. You gave them 90 days.
Uh-huh.
So now you write, if you don't know what these numbers are, how do you know so now you figured out what your expenditures are. Now you got to figure out what your real revenue is going to be for that property. So now in here I have down store. Guys, I have a lot of mixed use properties. If you don't have a store, mixed use properties where you have tenants above, residential tenants, and commercial on the bottom. If you don't have a store and you have 5 apartments, then make that an apartment. But commercial spaces also pay part of the real estate taxes, and they also pay part of your insurances. So this is why that revenue is in there. So if, let's say the commercial space has to pay, $30 a month towards the real estate fee, my cost, in addition to $30 a month for my insurance costs, that's an income.
Gotcha.
Now you could always change that to an apartment. Now, if you don't have a store, then just don't fill in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Now you figure out what your total gross income, you minus what your operating costs are, and that's your net profits before taxes.
Net. Gross before all the people you pay, net after. All right. Gotta remember, you have to know this stuff if you're gonna be in business.
And then of course you have the glossary.
Capital cost, major improvements, roof, boiler, sidewalk, windows, baths, water heaters. Look at you, Dan. This is really cool. Man.
Go back up a second, Chris. I want to just show them one of the equations, right? So how do you calculate your cap rate? Net operating expenses divided by your price that you paid. What's the 1% rule? Everyone's always talking about the 1% rule, but I realize most people don't understand what it really means.
Let's see. When the gross monthly income is at least 1% more than the purchase price after the renovations. Break that down, Dan.
So you want to be at 1%. So let's say your total cost is $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
If your rents are $1,000, okay, that tells me I could look at the deal. That doesn't tell me I'm going to buy the deal, but it tells me there's enough meat on that bone for me to look at it a little further. Okay? Let's talk about the 70% rule. I want to be at 70% of my total cost. So after my acquisition costs, after my mortgage costs, after my closing costs, and after my renovation costs, and we'll keep the numbers simplistic. If the deal is going to be worth $100,000 after my renovation costs, and after all my expenditures, which we have on top, how to derive those expenditures, we're at $70,000, then I'm good. If I'm at $80,000 in costs, I don't meet that 70% rule. I don't want to buy it, because that 30% in asset appreciation is my profit for having done all the work.
Profit. Are you including your any costs in that, like realtor fees and any of that? Or
everything.
Gotcha. You got to do that, y'all. 70%. I've seen landlords sometimes go up to 80 if they're holding it for a long term.
Yes, I've gone to 85, believe it or not.
Wow.
I've gone to 85.
I love this definitions, Dan. We need a whole a nice book of definitions anyway.
And again, this get cash on cash return, cash outlay divided by your net.
Oh, right there.
By your net profits equals your cash on return, right?
What you got going in. I think people don't take cash out of their pocket. They think the mortgage is cash. I think we look at it, sometimes we can look at it differently.
Yes, we can.
Sweet.
HOA fees, your liabilities, your growth, everything is on there.
Thank you, Dan. This is good stuff here. So Roundup, I just wanted you to see what Dan had put together for you guys, to be honest with you. You can download Dan's deal analyzer in the video description. Use this every time you look at a deal. every time, when I mess up on doing deals, when I break the protocol that I've set for myself.
Yes,
Oh my God.
100%. Yes,
I'm like,
100%.
when I do it, I'm doing a deal now, right? The architect's supposed to finish the drawings. Didn't put a penalty and a deadline in the drawings. And when I was signing a contract, I'm like, why am I doing this? I didn't put a penalty in there. Once again, do not, if you know what your procedures are and you have them right here on Deals Analyzer or on Dan's Analyzer, don't deviate. Follow the stuff and you won't mess yourself up.
Nope. No.
We had a question here, Dan. A couple of things, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hit that like button down there, guys. Sadie, got a good profit back on my first flip. Good for you. Working on a second. Scared to add up every single expense to see what the real profit was. Oh, I've been there. Like, man, I'm not even going. I'm just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
I let my accountant do it at the end of the year, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We've all been there, Sadie.
I
Don't feel
think we've
bad.
all been there.
We've been there, man. Shoot. Realtors aren't really getting paid much. That's right. Depending on the house. Derek, hey Derek, Dan, what do you think about condos versus single family rentals in this market and going forward? Dan is the man.
I love them. I love condos. So I love condos for a different reason. I love condos because I'm an out-of-state investor as well. So I don't buy single-family homes as investments when they're out of state. I do buy them if they're local. So when I buy a condo, I'm not concerning myself with the roof, the exterior painting, the landscaping, the sprinkler system, the water mains, the sewer mains, the exterior lighting, the security cameras or the gates or parking facilities or amenities. I don't concern myself with any of that other than just the inside of the unit. So once I go in and I get that unit rentable ready, is really no management involved. If something goes wrong, it's like, the garbage disposal is not working, it's too loud, or the toilet flap isn't working. So I send a handyman for that, right? I don't have to, and I could do everything from a distance. It's very easy to manage. So I won't go into the exact numbers of doors, but from afar, but I've got a lot. And I really don't, I spend less time managing those doors that I have in other states than I do managing my own doors where I live in New York, because
You there?
I'm concerning myself with the exterior other than the interior of the unit, which I've renovated to get it rentable ready. So it's extremely easy to manage. That's why I love it. However, I'm
Sure.
going to tell you, you got to be extremely careful with communities that you choose to be in. Make
HOAs.
sure that the HOA documents actually allow you to rent. Make sure there's no restrictions on you renting. Make sure that that they're healthy financially, so you're not going to get hit with a special assessment. I always recommend that you go to at least one board meeting and see the personalities. Make sure there's no Karens in there or no drama happening, because if there is, it's
Happens.
going to be a problem for you. So I
Can be.
take the time out and I do a lot of research on the board as well as the managing agent for every community I buy in.
There you go, Dan. Derek, we had to actually sue some of our HOA members, and because they were hiring friends, getting kickbacks for the landscaping contracts. It was just
Yeah.
nasty, man. Then Dev, the expenses, those expenses are included with the HOE fees. Oh yeah, with the condos, are those expenses, some of them that we went over here today, Dan, included in the HOA fees?
Some of them may be, right? So, in other
I
words,
find that out.
garbage removal, right? You won't have to pay that if you're in a condo because the HOA, that's included in your HOA fees, right?
Mhm.
Many HOAs, though, have it that each condo actually has its own water meter and you'll get billed every 3 months for it. So, that you have to get from the HOA community. So, when you buy a condo, the first thing you need to do is one, you want to look at the bylaws, you want to know what the rules and regulations are, and you want to look at the financials.
Derek wants to know, do you have a certain cap rate you look for condos, Dan?
So my cap rate that I used to look for before the last 3 years would be no less than 12 to 14%. Now, because of the cost of acquisition, it's around between 5 and 6%.
Gotcha.
But remember, I'm not just looking at the cap rate; I'm looking at the appreciation value as well. So sometimes the cap rate may not make as much sense as the appreciation value does.
Well, don't forget, I want everybody to understand you're in New York.
Well, it depends on what market you place you're in. So if you go
Oh
out
my
west in the
Lord.
Midwest, that doesn't really exist. It's existed the
Mhm.
last 5 years, but that market has been not so common. I suspect. So in the Midwest, like let's say in the Ohio Valley, you could buy a really inexpensive house but get a lot of big cash flow, right? Then you would go to New York and you're gonna buy a really expensive condo or a property, and you're not going to get very much cash flow, but you're going to get a lot of asset appreciation. There's very few areas where you get both.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, Roundup, that's all we got for you today. I want to make sure you get started. If you're making offers, if you're doing fix and flips, if you're managing, or even thinking about getting into doing that stuff. It's always good to have. Every time I do any business, I love to have an outline right here in front of me, so I don't have to remember everything. Even when I'm writing a headline, I've got a book full of headlines. I don't want to start from a blank piece of paper. I just don't want to do it. For what? Why would you start from scratch when you got outlines and systems where you can just plug right into and use what's already there?
Correct. 100%.
There's just no reason to do it. And I've been doing it since 04, and Dan's been doing it since 89, and we both follow this stuff. So you don't have to go out there and reinvent
And
the
every
world.
time we don't, it costs us money.
Hey, y'all, I lose money every time, dude. I don't go and I
Every
don't.
time I get lazy and don't do it because I think I know it,
Mhm.
I lose money.
Dev, yes, is the analyzer printable?
Yes, it is.
You can print it right out and get rolling. All right, so round up. Go to the video description below. Get signed up for Dan's analyzer. It's right there. It's gonna cost you less than a tank of gas. So you know what you're doing when you're making these offers. Dan, final thoughts from a roundup homies, and I'll let you go.
Nothing. Continue to watch Chris Haskins. Guys, the best thing you could possibly do is align yourself with the people that are actually doing it, and Chris is. So by all means, I can't. That's my best advice.
Yeah,
Follow people that actually are doing it.
Are doing it. Yep. Dan and I have both met some posers and some fakesters. I don't know why, but it's just part of life. And you're gonna have to weed through the posers and the fakesters on your own. Is that just a part of growing, Dan?
It's part of every business. It is what it is.
Everybody wants to be an investor. Everybody wants to be a wheeler and dealer, big money guy. So you gotta make sure you listen to the words that they're using, their actions. Go to their profiles. Are their profiles just teaching, or are their profiles like Dan's where you're doing? Big difference.
Major difference.
Big difference. All right, the link's in the video. Smash the like, share with anybody else that you think needs to understand how to do this so they can make an offer or manage their property better. And we'll see you on the next video roundup. Take care,
guys.
Peace.
Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.